Hey everybody, I'm back with another audio essay. This week I'll be reading my latest, titled The Trump Effect. As always, if you'd like to read along, you can find the link directly below this video, or if you're on an audio streamer, you can find the link in the episode description. If you haven't signed up yet, please subscribe, bravenewnormal.substack.com. You can sign up for free or as a paid subscriber. Paid subscribers receive early access to podcast episodes and lots of paid-only essays that I am currently working on right now, literally as I'm recording this. So sign up, bravenewnormal.substack.com. I do not send spam emails or calls to action or any of that stupid shit. I get inundated by that stuff all the time, and it drives me fucking crazy, so I refuse to do it to you. I will send 1 or 2 emails per week, and it will always be something of substance that you might actually care about. It'll be a podcast episode or an essay or something to that effect. So sign up, bravenewnormal.substack.com. All right, let's get into it. The Trump Effect, exposing Trudeau and Canadian ineptitude. There's a darkness that penetrates everything in Canada. It's always been here. But we can no longer hide it behind phony politeness and strained patriotism. Justin Trudeau is the embodiment of it, a living, breathing chasm to nothing, a vessel for platitudes that live as a form of social elevator music, fluff that sounds nice but is completely devoid of meaning upon closer examination. The Great White North has struggled to define itself in the post-Pierre Trudeau period. When challenged to demonstrate characteristics that would represent an identity, the most common response is simply that we are not American. But what does that mean? We are certainly American in the sense that we belong to a continent bearing the name. Do we consider ourselves loyal subjects of the British Empire? Canada is a sovereign nation. However, we are a member of the Commonwealth, and we govern under the exceptionally confusing British parliamentary system. We're surrounded by constant reminders that we are still technically ruled by the Crown in subtle messages, appearing everywhere from our cash to our courts to the Western European brand of apathetic mediocrity produced by our state-funded media. Yet no self-respecting modern Canadian pays any attention to what happens within the British monarchy. King Charles could be shot out of a cannon over Palestine and the news would be a cursory topic of conversation, something mentioned between sips of coffee while scrolling through TikTok videos in the break room. We, as Canadian citizens, have no allegiance to the Union Jack, and many would revolt if expected to serve the royal throne of the United Kingdom in any real capacity. Our not-American identity is rooted in a deep-seated insecurity about being the lesser of the Northern Americas. Mexico has the luxury of owning a distinct national character, though it may not own much else in a material sense. Canada is the United States' scrawny little brother, the beneficiary of whatever cultural hand-me-downs it deems us worthy of inheriting, the tag-along struggling to find itself while secretly wishing it had the courage to be the independent older sibling. Canadians often react to this undeniable reality with a smug arrogance, a defense mechanism developed to avoid admitting the obvious. The United States is bigger and better, but we're more tolerant and compassionate. They have their God, guts, and guns. We're the civilized socialists who live in an intellectual fantasy world where healthcare is free and nationwide wealth redistribution makes sense because we're Canadian, and that's the only explanation given when the subject comes up since it's impossible to justify otherwise. Except our healthcare isn't free. We pay handsomely for our decaying pharma machine. And equalization payments from the Western powerhouse provinces to the Eastern media and political centers that generate nothing of intrinsic value has been a sore spot in this country since Pierre Trudeau first stuck his Marxist hand in Alberta's cookie jar. We don't talk about those controversies, though. It's not nice to point out the charity routinely funneled into Quebec and Ontario from the blue-collar nobodies they look down their noses at. We must achieve net zero. That is until Ottawa and Montreal need more of the billions BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan painstakingly pump out of the ground in freezing temperatures. Oil, gas, and coal are the devil, but our executive and political classes are more than happy to dance with him when the coffers run dry. We're a nation erected around befuddling contradictions and hypocrisies. During the last 10 years, the Trudeau Liberals massively widened the scope of their government, adding layers of complexity to the winding labyrinth of bureaucracy. Trudeau himself made good on his promise to transform Canada into a post-national state through heavy injections of transgenderism and anti-racist racism, tidal waves of immigration, and a drug decriminalization effort that fed a raging fentanyl epidemic. Beneath the chaos, China was tightening its grip around the Trudeau Liberals. American intelligence agencies caught on quickly. They peeked through the weeds of Trudeau's overwhelming criminality to discover what was slithering around at the bottom of the Canadian swamp. A discreet partnership between a cabinet packed with inane ideologues and a foreign communist regime racing toward world domination. Canada was designated as a national security threat under the Biden Democrats. They knew what the Canadian public didn't, that their elected officials were no longer working on their behalf, and were now agents for wealthy United Front Work Department donors connected to the CCP and criminal cartels. The Biden administration kept their suspicions quiet since they too were on the hook with China-led globalist organizations like the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, and a litany of others, but they began to distance themselves as a means of self-preservation. They were comfortable flirting with the dragon to appease their donors. However, Canada was sleeping with it. The United States formed a new Five Eyes defense alliance with New Zealand and Canada, the two countries most notably infiltrated by Chinese interests, deliberately left out. When President Trump returned to the White House, he arrived with a mandate to repair the devastation caused by 4 years of the Biden wood chipper tearing through the American cultural fabric and shredding their withering economy. His America First approach appears to be a turn away from hegemonic power, most strikingly observable in the massive cuts to U.S. aid, and a focus inward on a vast array of domestic diseases. With millions of illegal immigrants settling in the United States under Biden, an out-of-control fentanyl crisis and violent crime on the rise, mass deportations and strengthened borders were the obvious immediate remedies to stop the bleeding. In Canada, millions of international students flooded the country with Trudeau's blessing. Immigration consultants, both in Canada and abroad, assisted in falsifying transcripts and other documents to guarantee passage. In March and April 2024, a reported 50,000 students disappeared from the government's radar. Between 2021 and 2024, there were approximately 1,500 encounters with individuals on the U.S. terrorist watch list traveling through the northern border, and that's just the confirmed number. We don't know how many slipped through the miles-wide gaps between Canada and the United States. Furthermore, the Port of Vancouver is widely known as a main point of entry for fentanyl into North America via Hong Kong and mainland China-based shipping companies. Unsurprisingly, British Columbia, the province in which Vancouver is located, now lays claim to the largest fentanyl superlab ever discovered on the American side of the Pacific Ocean. Many of the alleged conspirators are connected to organizations that had made large donations to the Trudeau Foundation and the Liberal Party, which also sheds light on some potential motivations behind BC's perplexing drug decriminalization policy. So when President Trump issued his ultimatum to Prime Minister Trudeau, tighten up your national security or suffer 25% tariffs on all exports, Canadians howled in agony at the sudden betrayal by our belligerent bestie. Sure, we were pumping a variety of poisons into their backyard, but best friends don't acknowledge each other's flaws and demand they do better. Not in Canada, anyway. In Arctic Mexico, we pretend they aren't there until they grow out of our control, and then we just live with them like giant malignant facial tumors. And when they become terminal, we wheel our best friend into the hospital where they're euthanized under our medical assistance in dying program. That's tolerance. That's compassion. That's the Canadian way. But it isn't the American way, especially as it pertains to Donald Trump, the hyper-alpha, free market magnate, cheeseburger billionaire. If he intends to truly put America first, then he must also wrangle in his wildly volatile southern neighbor and bring the hammer down on his deceptively docile northern sidekick. There's no more room for casually overlooking the detrimental behaviors of corrupt bedfellows in favor of foreign conflicts and empire expansion. The Trump administration is targeting the inverse, a drastic reduction of American waste and globalist projects, and a return to the nationalism that generated post-World War II era prosperity. This momentous course correction puts Justin Trudeau and his post-nationalist Liberal Party firmly at odds with the new old American ideals. And to further destabilize our cross-border relationship, Mark Carney, a key architect of the WEF-fueled globalist eco-nightmare, is poised to replace Trudeau as Liberal leader and become Canada's unelected Prime Minister. Canadians, of course, lack the mental vigor to comprehend their own deficiencies. So we'll fall back into the fetal position and soil ourselves until China saves us in exchange for what's left of our autonomy, or Trump puts us out of our misery. We'll throw a temper tantrum and threaten to join the EU or even BRICS, but we'll never follow through because the United States would hit us with devastating sanctions before the first Chinese electric death trap rolled onto the docks in Vancouver. Meanwhile, the world will continue on without us. Trump will capitalize on our severely impaired oil and gas industries in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, just as he recently did in his deal with Japan, a country that came to Canada first but was denied by Trudeau. Canadians will elect Mark Carney as our next semi-legitimate prime minister in a strange act of cringy self-owning revenge against Trump, and will plunge into the eco-fascist cloaked in green communism suicidal side of the left, because if there's one thing we're good at, it's cutting off our nose to spite our face. We'll happily bankrupt our nation and thrust ourselves into a third world dictatorship if it means we're buying Canadian. All right, there it is. A few mistakes here and there, but sorry guys, I'm a little bit distracted today. I just found out I'm more than likely going to have surgery for an old boxing injury, and it's not life-threatening, but it sucks. I hate surgeries. So I'm actually just happy I was able to do this because my mind is preoccupied with writing and surgeries and all sorts of stupid shit. But anyways, this is it. Unsurprisingly, this essay went viral online. Anytime I write about Trudeau, it just goes instantly viral. And to be honest, I've been avoiding writing about Trudeau because I feel like it's an easy home run. And he's so despised and so detested by the world that anytime you write anything derogatory about him, it just takes off. And I don't know. I don't like doing that. I see a lot of other writers do that constantly in order to build their readership and, get the clicks that they need. But for me, I really, it's got to come from a genuine place. However, I've been discussing this issue on the podcast and contemplating it a lot recently, and so I decided to sit down and type it all out. And essays like these are nice because they just flow, and I think the reason why when I write stuff like this, it goes viral is because I think you as the reader can sense that as well, that it's just flowing out of me. There's no struggle there. And I pretty much captured everything here. In Canada, everything's kind of coming to a head at this point, and it really feels like we're at a break point, and it could go either way. I guess maybe a tipping point would be a more accurate way to describe it, but it really feels like we're at a tipping point in Canada, and we're either going to go all the way into darkness or we're going to come out of it. And, in a lot of ways, Trump isn't the best diplomat in the world, and he's not the best at articulating his ideas in a way that makes sense to everybody. But essentially what he's doing with this tariff threat is he's telling Canada to tighten their shit up. And exactly like I talked about in the essay, he's focusing his attention on American domestic issues, and that part of that includes tightening up the border between the U.S. and Canada, tightening up the southern border between the U.S. and Mexico, and holding both countries to account. That's why when he came into office, within like the first 3 days, he started looking to us and issuing those ultimatums, because we are very much a part of the American success story in terms of us having our shit together and doing what we're supposed to be doing as allies. It's just the Canadian reaction to it has actually irritated me more than anything, because the other thing, and I didn't write about this in the essay, but the other thing that Canadians seem to overlook, because they're not paying attention to anything beyond the headlines that flow across whatever social media website they use, Trump hit us with tariffs in 2017. This tariff thing is nothing new. It's just now he's more serious about it because, and he hasn't said this outright, and I think this is his best attempt at being diplomatic, but he hasn't said it outright. But the main concern in the United States right now is the Trudeau Liberals' relationship to China. They know what's going on here. They know what's been happening. And I feel like we as Canadians, we like to conveniently ignore these things because we just want life to be good and we want things to flow, and we don't want to deal with any of the problems that come along with knowing the realities of what our country is engaged in. But Trump and his administration and the Biden administration before them are very, very aware of what Trudeau and the Liberal Party have been up to. And they are adamant about putting out that fire. And, if you're the United States and you have China influencing Canada in the way that it has, that's a very, very dangerous position to be in, because we are right on their border. We are right on the American border, and therefore China is right on the American border now. And that's something they do not want. So We can boo the American anthem at hockey games and all sorts of dumb shit. But the truth is that we have let this problem grow for such a long time that now we have to stand up and start fixing it. And that's what Trump and his administration are pushing us to do. They are telling us to fix our fucking problems. And it's the thing that should be truly embarrassing to all Canadians is that it took an American administration to tell us to get our shit together and to tell us to fix things. This should not have been a problem in the first place, but here we are. And now we have Mark Carney incoming, who is going to be our unelected prime minister. And that is, I mean, it's a worst case scenario. Things just keep getting worse for Canada. And the reason why is because we did not attack this stuff when we should have. We've known about this stuff for a long time, at least maybe not publicly, but there are enough Canadians who are at least peripherally aware of what is happening in our country that we should have stood up and demanded better a long time ago. But now our opportunity to fix this without it becoming a global, without it becoming spotlighted globally, has passed. And President Trump is still being nice. He's still playing nice with us because he hasn't brought up China as the issue yet. He codes it in words like fentanyl and the border. But those of us who know, and I, thankfully have the luxury of hosting regular conversations with Sam Cooper, but, and those of us who know what's going on, who really know, people like Sam, we know that he's what he's really telling us is get China out of your country. And at this point in time, the Trudeau Liberals and the upcoming Carney Liberals, because remember, Mark Carney is connected to the same people as Trudeau, and I would say furthermore connected to people at the higher levels. They're reliant on these illegal criminal relationships that they have with these organizations that are directly connected to the Chinese Communist Party. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I got to go to a follow-up doctor appointment right now. And I'm sorry, guys. It's just sitting on my head. So I don't even know if anything that I just talked about made sense. I hope it did, because this is literally the only time that I have to do this this week. And I want to get this audio essay out. So I hope this all made sense. But if you're not subscribed yet, bravenewnormal.substack.com. I know a lot of you listening to this aren't, so please subscribe. I will not spam you. It's just nice to be able to send all this stuff directly to you rather than hoping that you find it in the ether of the internet. So I'm going to get out of here. Wish you all a happy and healthy week, happy and healthy year, happy and healthy life. And just appreciate every moment. Love you guys. Peace.